"Sir," said the woman, "it is hardly fair after so briefly dismissing the questions I put to you to inquire with such vivacity about my secrets. But if you like to barter and tell me your adventures, I will not conceal from you how it stands with me and my presence." They soon made a bargain. The dame disclosed her circumstances to him, told him the history of the pug, and let him see the singular gift. He lifted this natural curiosity from the basket and took Mops, who seemed as if sleeping softly, into his arms. "Happy beast," cried he, "thou wilt be touched by her hands, thou wilt be made alive by her, while the living are obliged to fly from her presence to escape a mournful doom. Yet why say I mournful? Is it not far sadder or more frightful to be injured by her look than it would be to die by her hand? Behold me," said he to the woman, "at my years what a miserable fate have I to undergo. This mail which I have honourably borne in war, this purple which I sought to merit by a wise reign, destiny has left me, the one as a useless burden, the other as an empty ornament. Crown and sceptre and sword are gone, and I am as bare and needy as any other son of earth. For so unblessed are her bright eyes, they take from every living creature they look on all its force, and those whom the touch of her hand does not kill are charged to the state of shadows wandering alive." Thus he did continue to bewail, no wise contenting the old woman's curiosity, who wished for information not so much of his internal as of his external situation. She learned neither the name of his father nor of his kingdom. He stroked the hard Mops, whom the sunbeams of the bosom of the youth had warmed as if he had been living. He inquired narrowly about the man with the lamp, about the influences of the sacred light, appearing to expect much good from it in his melancholy case. Amid such conversation, they caught sight from afar the majestic arch of the bridge, which extended from one bank to the other, glittering with the strangest colours in the splendours of the sun. Both were astonished, for until now they had never seen this edifice so grand. "How," cried the prince, "was it not beautiful enough as it stood before our eyes, piled out of jasper and agate? Shall we not fear to tread it, now that it appears combined in graceful complexity of emerald and chrysoprase and chrysolite?" Neither of them knew the alteration that had taken place upon the snake, for it was indeed the snake, who every day at noon curved herself over the river and stood forth in the form of a bold swelling bridge. The travellers stepped upon it with a reverential feeling and passed over it in silence. No sooner had they reached the other shore than the bridge began to heave and stir. In a little while it touched the surface of the water, and the green snake in her proper form came gliding after the wanderers. They had scarcely thanked her for the privilege of crossing on her back when they found that, besides them three, there must be other persons in the company whom their eyes could not discern. They heard a hissing, which the snake also answered with a hissing. They listened, and at length caught what follows. "We shall first look about us in the fair Lily's park," said a pair of alternating voices, "and then request you at nightfall, so soon as we are anywise presentable, to introduce us to this paragon of beauty. At the shore of the great lake you will find us." "Be it so," replied the snake, and a hissing sound died away in the air. Our three travellers now consulted in what order they should introduce themselves to the fair lady, for however many people might be in her company, they were obliged to enter and depart singly under pain of suffering very hard severities. The woman with the metamorphosed pug in the basket first approached the garden, looking round for her patroness, who was not difficult to find, being just engaged in singing to her harp. The finest tones proceeded from her, first like circles on the surface of the still lake, then like a light breath they set the grass and the bushes in motion. In a green enclosure under the shadow of a stately group of many diverse trees she was seated, and again did she enchant the eyes, the ears, and the heart of the woman, who approached with rapture and swore within herself that since she saw her last, the fair one had grown fairer than ever. With eager gladness from a distance, she expressed her reverence and admiration for the lovely maiden. "What a happiness to see you! What a heaven does your presence spread around you! How charmingly the harp is leaning on your bosom, how softly your arms surround it, how it seems as if longing to be near you, and how it sounds so meekly under the touch of your slim fingers. Thrice happy youths, to whom it were permitted to be there." So speaking, she approached. The fair lily raised her eyes, let her hands drop from the harp, and answered, "Trouble me not with untimely praise, I feel my misery but the more deeply. Look, here at my feet lies the poor canary bird which used to beautifully accompany my singing. It would sit upon my harp and was trained not to touch me, but today, while I, refreshed by sleep, was raising a peaceful morning hymn, and my little singer was pouring forth his harmonious tones more gaily than ever, a hawk darts over my head. The poor little creature, in a fright, takes refuge in my bosom, and I feel the last palpitations of its departing life. The plundering hawk indeed was caught by my look and fluttered fainting down into the water. But what can his punishment avail me? My darling is dead, and his grave will but increase the mournful bushes in my garden." "Take courage, fairest lily," cried the woman, wiping off a tear which the story of the hapless maiden had called into her eyes. "Compose yourself. My old man bids me tell you to moderate your lamenting, to look upon the greatest misfortune as a forerunner of the greatest happiness, for the time is at hand, and truly," continued she, "the world is going strangely on of late. Do but look at my hand, how black it is. As I live and breathe, it has grown far smaller. I must hasten before it vanish altogether. Why did I engage to do the will-o'-the-wisps a service? Why did I meet the giant's shadow and dip my hand in the river? Could you not afford me a single cabbage, an artichoke, and an onion? I would give them to the river, and my hand were white as ever, so that I could almost show it with one of yours. Cabbages and onions thou mayest still find, but artichokes thou wilt search for in vain. No plant in my garden bears either flowers or fruit, but every twig that I break and plant upon the grave of a favourite grows green straightway, and shoots up in fair boughs. All these groups, these bushes, these groves, my hard destiny has so raised around me. These pines stretching out like parasols, these obelisks of cypresses, these colossal oaks and beeches were all little twigs planted by my hand as mournful memorials in a soil that otherwise is barren." To this speech the old woman had paid little heed. She was looking at her hand, which in the presence of the fair lady seemed every moment growing blacker and smaller. She was about to snatch her basket and hasten off, when she noticed that the best part of her errand had been forgotten. She lifted out the onyx pug and set him down not far from the fair one, in the grass. "My husband," said she, "sends you this memorial. You know that you can make a jewel live by touching it. This pretty faithful dog will certainly afford you much enjoyment, and my grief at losing him is brightened only by the thought that he will be in your possession." The fair lily viewed the dainty creature with a pleased and, as it seemed, with an astonished look. "Many signs combine," said she, "that breathe some hope into me. But is it not a natural deception which makes us fancy, when misfortune crowds upon us, that a better day is near? What can these many signs avail me? My singer's death, thy coal-black hand, this dog of onyx that can never fail me, and coming at the lamp's command, from human joys removed forever, with sorrows compassed round I sit. Is there a temple at the river? Is there a bridge? Alas, not yet.